Hey guys, it's Lion here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're doing another episode of the Sword and Sorcery Book Club. Today we're looking at Solomon Kane, number 4. This is the end of the series for now, although the character will obviously continue from Pet Searcher in other mediums, and of course in The Scourge of the Serpent, he will appear there, written by Jim Zub. So Solomon Kane fans, don't fear, there will be more, I'm sure of it. Although I don't have any actual confirmation of it, but it doesn't make sense for this character to not continue on in other projects. It's just, for now, it's over for this year, right? So we'll see what comes next after this. But this is cover A of the Serpent Ring Book 4. This is by Jessica Fong, and it looks really great. I do like that Solomon Kane looks kind of like a snake there. I think that that's interesting. However, there are some interesting variant covers as well. My favorite one is the James Castillo one. I think that style looks really great. It kind of reminds me of the Tale of the Three Brothers in Harry Potter in the movie. It also reminds me of something like Don Quixote, the story of this errant knight character who thinks that windmills are these monsters, right? And then he fights them, and for whatever reason, when I think of Don Quixote, I think it was the Pablo Picasso paintings of Don Quixote, or Don Quixote, and he looks kind of like how James Castillo painted Solomon Kane in this case, and he's fighting against a giant serpent, and it just looks really, really awesome. If I ever track down any variants for the series, it's probably going to be that one by James Castillo. I think it's really good. But that's it for the general, outside stuff. Let's actually talk about the book here. So it opens up on Solomon Kane crawling along the floors of Africa, the savannah, finding strength, realizing that he is not going to be cowed by reality, by the crushing weight of his wounds, and he stands up and he starts battling these hyena packs that are around him, right? And I think that this is really cool. When I think of Howard characters, I usually associate them with an animal because that's usually how Howard does it, right? Like Cole is like a tiger, Conan is like a lion, and in my case, I think of Solomon Kane as a dog, right? The hound of God. And it's just kind of interesting to see like a dog, or like the idea of like a dog fighting a pack of hyenas, because hyenas are like the most dominant animal on the African savannah, even though, technically lions are like the best hunters or whatever. And so these hyenas are the most dangerous animal in the area. And Solomon Kane, as weak as he is, still manages to beat them like a dog with a bone, right? And I just think it's a great image. I really like it. Pet Searcher probably wasn't thinking of that when he drew this, but I like thinking of it that way, and I think it's really, really nice, right? We transition over to a different scene. We see the Vale of the Serpents. It's this place where the mound is, and this kind of rocky valley, I guess you could call it. And the rest of the crew, the rest of the team that we've been following in this series, are climbing up the Serpent Mound, up this rounded pyramid, right? And the rogues, Sarsa and Nico, continue to keep hitting on Diamanta, and she kind of just ignores them, or she kind of goes against them in some way. But it's, at this point, she's like, well, fuck it, I got to deal with this, right? And they keep talking to her, and, they keep telling her, Solomon Kane is dead, you should pick one of us, right? And Sarsa and Nico have a moment of slight tension where they're both interested in Diamanta, but Sarsa is the one in charge and kind of the better fighter. So Nico is kind of jealous, but doesn't really seem to know if he should fight him about it or not. And it's kind of interesting because you think that this is going to be a conflict, and then there is a bit of a situation that changes that idea. I thought it was interesting. I like the character interaction here. I thought it was enjoyable, right? Inside, we see that Brahmo has been taken by the priestess, and he's talking to her. And she tells him, the ring is important. It's special to my people. And I know that you are just like every other human. You have been tempted by this ring, right? And he kind of tells her, no, not really, not in the way that you think, which I'm not really sure if it's true or not. But he does seem affected by this reality, that she knows that he was affected by the ring, right? So I assume that he was affected by it in some way, that he was tempted, right? And since Abramo is a historian or a naturalist or, some sort of sorcerer as well, we see the priestess, I forget her name, I'm sorry, but she tells him about why the serpent ring exists. Set, the goddess, in this case she's a goddess, but I always think of Set as a male god because the name is actually from Egyptian mythology, right? And he's like a male god. He's also not a snake in that, but it doesn't really make a difference, right? So this version of Set, in this case, in this version of Set, it's a woman or a female god, and she knew that even though gods are immortal and powerful, they're not necessarily everlasting, right? And so she created a ring. She had her people craft this ring and imbued it with her power in some way in order to lend her power to her successor, to a different person that would rise to be this great god character following in her, right? She would not be like other gods who just disappear into the ether and are forgotten, right? Like Mitra or other gods like that, right? She would be something that endures, right? And enduring means having successors and lineage, right? And so that's why this is created. But the power is given to those that deserve it, not those that seek it. Kind of like the Philosopher's Stone in Harry Potter, right? And so for whatever reason, this god created this framework, and it means that anyone like Sarza who's looking for it will be negatively affected by it. And in this case, it's also kind of like a curse that works in Set's favor, right? And so throughout the ages, Set and her children have been thwarted by barbarians. And so we see throughout the ages, we see Kol and Brul fight against Thoth-Amon and the Serpent Men, against Tulsa-Doom and the Serpent Men. Later we see Conan fighting against Thoth-Amon, who is Set's greatest follower, the great wizard of Stygia, and a character that is pretty important to Set apparently. And then over time, as humanity rose and fell multiple times through history, the ring was eventually lost. It was found at some point after the fall of Rome, and then now in the 500 years after, it has come back to the serpent people, right? And so the priestess thinks that now it is a proper time to kind of take over the world in some way, and she wants guns. She thinks that the swiftness of death that comes with guns is actually what will propel her people forward. And so this is why she has brought Abramo, who is this character that's supposed to know a lot, to her, right? And this kind of seems like an important revelation, and also does not end up being all that meaningful because the story is about to end, right? And so I wonder if we're going to come back to this later in The Scourge of the Serpent. I think that'd be fun. And so she thinks that guns will take her people forward, and then we transition away from this scene. We see that outside the dome, a giant snake has attacked the rest of the crew. They start to lose, and as they're losing, Solomon Kane shows up. He shoots the giant serpent in an eye, and he kind of fights it off, again, kind of like Harry Potter, and this is in the second movie, right? So for whatever reason, I just kept thinking of Harry Potter in this book, and I think it's just a giant snake. And so he fights it off, he kills it, or seems to kill it. I think the snake actually runs away. And he saves them, and they manage to run it off. Solomon and Diamanta have a quick conversation. Basically, I am sorry, I didn't mean to lie to you, but, the reality of the situation is that it was him or me, and I chose myself because that's what people do in those sort of situations. And she accepts it. And then they go into the dome. They kill a bunch of serpent men. Nico is killed in a moment of self-sacrifice to show you that he was a good man ultimately. And then Abramo and the priestess have a bit of a wizard off. He uses his Rosicrucian abilities, I guess, or hermetic abilities. I'm not really sure what occult path he's really following here, but he says some words in Hebrew, I think, and this allows him different abilities, right? He uses a healing light. He uses these balls of light in order to attack the priestess, and she kind of fights him off with set-based powers. And as they're doing this, Sarza ends up climbing up the serpent statue in the background, which actually is a statue of Set. Kind of looks like a Medusa, which is, I think, really cool. And he gets the ring, which was in her eye, and when he puts it on, he becomes insane. He starts becoming a serpent man as well, and Set's statue comes to life with the power of the ring, since Sarsa is commanding it to, right? And as it comes alive, the mound itself also comes down on them, because I think the serpent statue was also a pillar for the mound. And so everything breaks and crashes down on them. And so Zarza and the priestess Shakhabet get basically destroyed or killed by the crushing rubble, right? And this is kind of an easy way to finish off the story. Solomon Kane is not necessarily the one that did it, but he is ultimately the one that is the main character of the story, so he gets credit. And then the treasure that they were seeking is lost, but Solomon Kane managed to grab just enough of a handful to give to Diamanta so that she can, travel the world and grow and become a learned person with real experience, not just academic experience, right? And this is their last moment together. She, basically wants him to be with her, but he's like, nah, I gotta go my own way. And he walks off into the distance, and she seems pretty sad about it. And overall, it was a really good issue. I really liked it. I thought it was very enjoyable. It definitely feels like there's more to come, even though it's the last issue. And so I wonder if this is going to pick up next year, or if the Solomon Kane character is going to be a bit more important going forward in the Scourge of the Serpent, story. Because last time, the most important characters were Conan and Briza, and all the other characters were there to add flavor, right? And Solomon Kane was also there because he's the second most important Robert E. Howard character, at least the second most popular, right? And so in this case, I wonder if he's going to take center stage, if the Scourge of the Serpent story is going to be primarily focused on Conan and Solomon Kane, as opposed to Conan and Briza like it was last time, right? I'm sure that there are other characters that are going to be involved. I think Sailor Steve Costigan, who's a boxing character, will be involved in some way, which is pretty fun. And so, there's more to come, and I just wonder what way we're going to see that in, right? It's either going to be separate individual stories in the Savage Sword. It's either going to be him being really important in the Scourge of the Serpent, or it's going to be that this launches into a next, set of series in the next coming years that all focus on this overarching Solomon Kane story. I'm not really sure. I think it's exciting that we're in this kind of moment where we know things are coming, but we don't know what they are. So I'm excited about that. Now, otherwise, this book ends with an interview with Pat Searcher. We don't have a Jeff Shanks essay here. Totally, acceptable. The interview was good. It's enjoyable if you're someone that's really deeply into learning why creators do the things that they do. And I recommend that you read it. I liked it. I thought it was good, but it's not necessarily my favorite. I prefer essays over interviews. And I don't like what's called chainmail or Q&A pages all that much either. So I prefer the essays. But it was still good. This book was a 9 out of 10. It was very, very good. And I'll give you a proper review for the whole series in a different video later on in the year, because I am going to be doing another Road to Scourge of the Serpent series like I did last year. I'll read some books or some stories that I missed last year, and then I'll read some new stories. I got Jim to give me some stories that he recommends I read for this coming series. So I'll get around to that. And one of the things that I'll review for that will be the full Solomon Kane Scourge Serpent Ring story, right? So you'll get a full review for this story later, but you kind of understand my feelings here. At least at first blush, it is a top tier story. It's a 4.5 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10. It's really, really good. It's really enjoyable. But we'll see how I feel about it once I've read it all in one go, and once it's been a few months and it's a second read through, right? My feelings might change. It might make it better. It might make it worse. So we'll see how that goes. But those are my thoughts here on Solomon Kane number 4. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought down below. Was this a top tier story or not? Let me know down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. See you guys later.